Bills Mafia, we are live. I do apologize. The last 2 weeks, we have not been here, have not been doing a show, and just a little peek behind the curtain. You might see a little something new in my backdrop right there. It's the NFL Network is now part of ESPN, so I work for the NFL Network. I got to fix Appy there. So the last 2 weeks, just to be straightforward, have been very busy. A lot of meetings, a lot of meeting people, stuff like that. So that's why I haven't been able to do the show the last couple of weeks. But guess what? I am back with you today. You never know on this show. Stevie might pop in. Mookie might pop in. I know Drew is on kid duty today. A lot of busy stuff going on in the off season, but we are also getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. So I figure let's talk some Buffalo Bills and who they are currently being tied to in the NFL draft. But before we do that, we gotta intro the show. Jimmy, hit it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Bills Banter with Stevie Johnson and Michael F. Florio.
Fitzpatrick fires. Oh, caught! Steve Johnson! Touchdown, Buffalo! Why so serious?
The sickest Buffalo Bills podcast.
Allen will run it himself. He pumps. Got some daylight. Hurdles to the end zone.
It's gonna be sick.
You know what's going to be sick? A week from today. That's right. Next Thursday, April 16th. Let's just get it out of the way right away. Me and the one and only SJ13, the legend, Stevie Johnson. We will be in Orchard Park. We will be in the Cigar Mafia Lounge, holding it down, doing a live show. So first, let's shout out Cigar Mafia, our sponsors here. Head over to cigarmafia.com. Give them a follow on Instagram, socials, wherever you like to follow people. Follow them. You could get the Sweet Victory cigars that Stevie's always pulling out in season. You get the Air Allen hat, the SJ13 apparel. So much more than just cigars, but also top-of-the-line cigars if that is what you are into. And whether or not you like cigars, go grab the apparel, right? And regardless, come hang out with us next week live from this Cigar Mafia Lounge, April 16th. We are going to be having a lot of fun. Stevie Johnson and myself, maybe some guests, maybe some trivia, maybe some giveaways. You never know. Also, I've had the honor and the privilege of getting to know Stevie quite well this last year. You never know what this guy has in store. He is a walking surprise, right? Like I ran into him. We were doing stuff together out on Radio Row for Super Bowl and stuff. And at one point he was like, "Hey, Florio, come here." He handed me a can. He was like, "Roll this can between these two lines on this table." And I messed up. And he was like, 13 push-ups right now. Like, you never know. He's going to make someone in the audience do 13 push-ups. I have no doubt about that. Will it be you? It should be. April 16th. I can only say it so many times. Exactly 1 week from today. This show that you are watching currently right now, you could be watching it live with the legend and the guru, me and Stevie Johnson. I will definitely push the show at least one more time today, but wanted to make sure everyone knows about that. We were originally supposed to do it in March. You might remember there was a lot of bad weather. Like thousands of flights were canceled. We weren't going to be able to get into Buffalo on time. So instead, we are doing it next week live. Same show that we had planned, maybe with even more stuff. And the weather might be a little bit nicer. I know you guys in Buffalo, you people in Buffalo don't fear weather. I'm from Southern California. Well, no. I'm from New York City. This is a New York City shirt I have under it. I'm not going to rip my shirt off, but I'm from New York City. Everyone knows that. I got the New York stuff there, But I have lived in Southern California for the last almost 8 years of my life. I was fearful when I saw the weather forecast last month, the week that I was supposed to be out there. It is looking better for next week. So that is something that I am very excited for. You know what else I'm very excited for? A week after us, the NFL draft. Come hang out with us next Thursday, the Thursday after. Go watch who your Buffalo Bills draft in the first round. And so look, you guys know what my day job is. It's all a lot of offensive skill position players, right? That's who I've been scouting. These are all notes of just like, look, it's a bunch of pages of notes here of just players that I've been scouting. By scouting, I mean I just watch their tape. I watch them play. I write my thoughts because I'm a big believer that you're not going to keep everything in your head. So I write them down as I'm watching them. I mark my player comps, who they remind me of. I make a ranking of how I like them. And then I kind of take a step back because, what the NFL, where a player goes, the fit, how early a player goes, all of that matters greatly more than what I think of a player. But I always want to know about a player before they come into the NFL because, right, like you guys are going to tune into our show after the draft and I'm going to have to tell you what I think of these players. So, but because most of my gig is offensive side, almost every player I've watched so far, skill position, quarterback, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, something like that. So then and at a point in time, that could have been a whole show, right? Like I could have sat here today and gone over every single wide receiver, how I think they could fit with the Bills, all of this stuff. But then they made that trade for DJ Moore. And if you remember what I said when the Bills pulled off that trade, I said a lot, right? Like I was defending DJ Moore from the critics. I was putting an optimistic spin on it because, again, I'll just say, regardless of what you think of the contract or what they gave up, in comparison to some of the other wide receiver contracts, some of the other moves we've seen made, it was a fair compensation. But what I said specifically about the draft back then was the Bills now have the freedom. They don't need to go into round one and be like, we need to find our wide receiver one. That was the case before you got DJ Moore. You know who your top target is. You know who your top pass catcher is now. In 2026, I would be shocked if DJ Moore was not the Bills' leading receiver, top target, all of that, as long as he stays healthy. But the Bills now have flexibility. And the other thing I said when we were talking about the draft is I expect it to be a lot like last year. I expect a whole bunch of focus to go to the defensive side of the ball. Now, I still do think they add a receiver. I think they could add another lineman. They still have some cap space. There's still some names out there. So maybe, if it doesn't work out, they could always sign a veteran, something like that for cheap. But while maybe a pick or two gets used on the offense, I expect the bulk to go into the defense. And I said this before free agency. Then I said it after free agency. And I'm sitting here today, 1 week before our live show next week, which you guys should be buying tickets for. You guys should be RSVPing for, and you guys should be attending at Cigar Mafia next week. 1 week before that live show, I am still sitting here saying I expect it to be a very, very defensive focused draft for the Buffalo Bills. So then I said, you know what? I can talk about the positions I think the Bills need defensively, right? I think they could use some more help at edge. I think they can definitely use some help at linebacker. I think they can use help in the secondary still, particularly at safety. I think they could use a little bit of depth at corner. But again, because of the thing, and the reason I'm saying this is because I want to be transparent, right? I've watched a lot of offensive players. I can't sit here today and be like, I like this edge more than this edge because I just haven't watched them enough. But I've read up on them. I've watched some of these players. What I thought would be a good exercise is to look at who other people are linking the Bills to. So I pulled up a bunch of names that people currently from NFL Network or ESPN and where they currently have the Bills selecting at pick 26. Daniel Jeremiah, who I think is the GOAT of the NFL draft. I think this guy could run a team if he wanted to, and DJ knows I feel this way about him. I think DJ is the man. He has the Bills taking Cassius Howell, an edge who is a senior out of Texas A&M. I think I saw that and I was like, okay, this isn't a year like in the past, right? Like last season it was like, yo, y'all better get some help on defense. The year prior to that, it was or like the Dalton Kincaid year, it was like you need to get a pass catcher, right? Like there's been past years where it's kind of obvious not who, but like what position the Bills might select in round one. I don't think that is the case this year, not only because they have a couple of holes on defense and not as many on offense, but because this is the first time in almost a decade that Sean McDermott is not here. And Sean McDermott is not getting a say. And look, people are going to... This is something that is going to get debated for a very long time, I think. Just how much control and say Sean McDermott had with draft picks and roster construction, right? But I have been led to believe that it is more than we see from the outside. Especially when it comes to the draft, I think, because the Bills were all about high character players. And one thing I've said a lot since the Broncos game, since they fired Sean McDermott, was that I think the Bills need some dogs on the defensive side of the ball. But the reason this is so different is because, one, they are bringing in dogs now. They're not just all high character guys. Like, you bring in CJ Gardner-Johnson, dog. You bring in, like, Geno Stone at one point in time was a dog. I don't know if he still got that in him, but he once was. Bradley Chubb has a little bit of dog in him, but they still need a little bit more of that. But CJ Gardner-Johnson is really the one that got me like, ooh. But the moves they made on the defensive side of the ball during free agency: Chubb, CJ Gardner-Johnson, D. Alford, Geno Stone. That's it. The rest of these players here are from the previous regime. Now, a lot of them are going to get burned. They just naturally have to, right? Like Ed Oliver, obviously. Groot, obviously. Deion Walker feels like he is going to be a big piece. Our boy Dwayne Carter feels like he has the chance to take a next step forward in this system. We got to see what Michael Hoyt could be. But all of these are McDermott guys or Bean guys. Either way, they are not. They are past regime guys, right? They are not Jim Leonard guys. They're just, he didn't select them. So I think we're going to get a lot there. And you look at the edge, right? Like right now, per Our Lads, TJ Sanders is projected to be the starting D end. I like him more interior. I think last year they were using him at edge a lot and he was getting kind of exploited. I don't think that's where he naturally fits. I think he's a good depth piece. I also don't think they want him playing as many snaps as he would have to play right now. So going out and getting a big edge like Daniel Jeremiah has them projected to do would help theoretically on paper. So then what about my other boy, Bucky Brooks? Bucky has them projected to take CJ Allen, a linebacker who is a junior coming out of the University of Georgia. My first thought was a bulldog. Cool. Maybe don't let this guy drive, but I'm interested in having him play football for my favorite football team because the Georgia Bulldogs, say what you will about them as operators of motor vehicles. Terrible. But they are dogs. And there's been a ton of players who came from the system and have not only success at the NFL level, but immediate success at the NFL level. And when you are a team like the Buffalo Bills, who has a quarterback who is the best quarterback walking the planet in his prime, You are not drafting projects in round one. You're not drafting someone and saying he's good, but if he continues to develop or something, he could be great. Obviously, you want that in a prospect, but you're not drafting someone who isn't ready to see the field right away. Not in the first round. Like maybe you bring them along slowly, but when their number is called, they need to be ready to go out there and contribute, especially in a year like this where there is so much turnover, there is so much change. This could be the pick that becomes the face of a Jim Leonard style defense, right? That is what I know 26 isn't 6. It's not a top upper echelon pick where you're getting a proven stud. But Bean, you cannot swing and miss at this one again. There cannot be a TJ Sanders who's a nice piece, right? If you draft that in round one this year, people are going to be upset. Max Harrison, I still have a lot of hope for him moving forward, but his rookie year was a disappointment. I mean, go through first round picks since Josh Allen. Like Dalton Kincaid is great talent-wise. He's never on the field. We're already hearing reports that he might be on a snap count all year long again. You need to hit. The early round picks, Brandon, look, day 3, Bean has hit the ball out of the park numerous times in recent years, but he has swung and missed far too often with the big pieces, with the early round picks who are just solid and not living up to what they should be, or whatever the case may be, or the big contracts that don't live up to it. This is a huge, I've already talked about this a lot on previous episodes, but this is a huge year for Brandon Bean. Cannot swing and miss. So taking someone out of a school like Georgia that has proven over time to create guys that are ready to contribute right away and are just good players in this league, there's something to that, right? Like, there's something to taking a wide receiver from Ohio State that gives you a little bit of peace of mind because, yeah, no, that doesn't mean that a prospect is a can't miss guy, and can't miss guys miss all the time. We know that. But when there's a track record of success from a certain school, a certain coach, I think you feel better about potentially taking that player. Charles Davis has them taking Kedrick Falk, a edge who is a junior out of the University of Auburn. Are you starting to see a trend here? Lance Zierlein. I'm gonna go back to Lance and Nick Shook last because they are my two favorite scenarios that they predict the Bills to do. My boy Rhett Lewis has them taking Emmanuel McNeil Warren, a safety who is a senior out of the University of Toledo. ESPN, they did this cool thing this week where like it's Mel Kiper Jr., it's all of them, right? Field Yates, Todd McShay, all their draft guys came together and they just did a mock. So I don't know which one in particular, if any, maybe they all did, but the consensus pick in this mock was Avion Terrell, a cornerback from Clemson. So I've read what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll give you Peter Schrager's. Caden McDonald, a defensive tackle out of Ohio State, huge body dude, run stopper. That was the logic with the pick, right? Like the Bills need a run stopper, a physical guy up front who can help stop the run. Even though I think Deion Walker could be that for them, they could always use another body, right? But look at this. I said 6 different people's mock draft. Not a one had the Bills taking the same player. We had an edge, a linebacker, a different edge, a safety, a cornerback, and a defensive tackle. 5 different positions. 6 different players amongst 6 people. Now, I know sometimes groupthink gets the best of us, but look, if anyone had an idea of who the Bills wanted, we would see that player go more than once in these mocks. What I think this tells you, we know one Bills drive keeps those, they keep that mouth shut. They don't leak stuff unless they want it to be leaked. So they're doing a good job of keeping it close to the vest. Everyone is guessing right now. No one knows what the Bills are truly going to do. But this shows you the options that they have and flat out the needs that they have. That people could look and be like, no, they need an edge. No, they need a tackle. No, they need a corner. No, they need a safety. No, they need a linebacker. because they do need a linebacker. You're probably not taking one at the end of round 1, but they need a linebacker. So the whole point of this is just to kind of be like, yeah, they're probably going defense. Every single one of those was a defensive player, but we just don't know what, which to me makes the draft exciting, right? Like, look, Raider fans are ecstatic to get Fernando Mendoza, but there's no, unless Sonny Weaver Jr. becomes the GM and trades the pick and then gets his first round picks back by trading a bunch of seconds. We know what the Raiders are going to do. There's not that like intrigue, right? We know that after 9 minutes and 55 seconds, the commish will walk out there and he will say the Raiders select Fernando Mendoza. I'm very happy the Bills are not in a position like that. We're like, who is the quarterback? Because we know we got ours, but with the Bills, the intrigue is like, who will they take? Because we don't know. And so the final 2 mocks that I haven't got to talk about yet, Lance Zierlein, who I love, think he's a genius. He doesn't have the Bills making a first-round pick. He has the Bills trading out of round 1, trading with the Arizona Cardinals to get more day 2 picks. Because the Bills, they traded away their day 2, well, their second round pick to get DJ Moore. So as of right now, the Bills have picked 26. Then they don't pick again till 91 in round 3. Then they got round 4, 2 in round 5, and then round 6 and then round 7 pick. That's it. They got 7 picks, and that's it. And in the past, remember like I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago. It was like the Bills have 11 draft picks or something like that. Like wild. So I actually think them trading back is very much so in the range of outcomes. Remember 2 years ago when, look, we could bash the pick all you want. I know a lot of people do not like the Keon Coleman pick in retrospect. I still think the jury is still out. I think Keon is going to be a contributor for the Bills next year. I think that he is going to compete with Josh Palmer to be the 3. I think he is better suited to kind of be in the slot a bit. He's going to be a red zone specialist. They're going to have plays for Keon Coleman. He could still break out too at such a young age. But the reason I brought him up is, look, some of you might have wanted Ladd McConkey. That was me. I loved Ladd. He was outside of the big 3 in that class, which were Neighbors, Harrison, and Roma Dunze. I was like, Ladd McConkey is the next best wide receiver in this class. Maybe you wanted Xavier Worthy. They could have took him. You remember why they didn't? Because they traded back with the Chiefs, and then they traded back again. Then they got into round 2, and they took Keon Coleman. I think the Bills moving back, if you ask me as of right now, the most likely scenario for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL draft, I'm telling you, I think they trade back in round 1. Because I already said, look at all the different names and different positions they need. When you have needs like that, you want picks because you want to be able to find your guys and fill in those spots. Also, people who I trust a lot more than myself when it comes to stuff like this, like the NFL draft. Like my friend Daniel Jeremiah, for instance. He wrote recently that the sweet spot of this draft is between picks 50 and 100. And he was like, you can get at certain positions that the Bills need, like a safety, linebacker. You could get the same caliber of player at like pick 90 something as you could pick 60. So if that is the case, trade back, get another day 2 pick, get a second round pick back, get another third round pick, something like that. Trade back twice if you can. Do what you got to do, Brandon Beane, to get those assets in day 2. That is what I want the Buffalo Bills to do this year in the NFL draft. So I think that is a very, because look, outside of Josh Allen year and Dalton Kincaid, they never jump up. That's it. And Kincaid, they jumped up like 3 picks. Josh, is different. They had a guy that they thought was their franchise quarterback, and they went all in, as one is supposed to do when you think you have a potential franchise quarterback that could be had. If you remember, they had 2 firsts that year because they traded Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, they traded Patrick Mahomes to the Chiefs. We've been paying for it ever since, but they did that, and they got that extra pick, and then they used those picks to move up with Allen and to get Tremaine Edmonds. Bean's best draft ever. He'll never top that one. But that was the only year I would say he was really aggressive. Because even with Dalton Kincaid, yeah, he jumped up a couple of spots. But if you remember that draft, there was 4 first-round wide receivers. JSN, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, and Zay Flowers. And they all went boom, 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 boom. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it was like picks 20 through 23 or 21 through 24. And the Bills, who were in the market for a wide receiver that year, weren't aggressive enough to go get that. And then they were like, all right, well, we're going to grab this tight end. Maybe that was their plan going in. But to me, Bean just seems like a trade back guy, especially in a year like this where there's a lot of positions to fill. A lot of names are being tied to the Bills. If there's not a clear cut, like set it in, like this is our guy. I think if there's someone there at 26 that the Bills are like, this Vontae Mack, no matter what, right? Like this is our guy, they will take him. But I think Bean is going to look at it more like there's a number of different options we could go here. So why not get more picks? And then the last mock I wanted to talk about was my boy Nick Shook. Was hanging out with Nick at the Super Bowl. Great dude. He had a spicy pick. He thinks Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, junior out of, I don't know why I said it in that order. Wide receiver out of ASU. He is a junior. He is my wide receiver 1 in this class. I am going to be going on the insiders after this and predicting where I go. I think he's the first wide receiver off the board, and it is almost 20 picks before the Bills have a pick that I think he goes. So I don't want anyone watching or listening to this to be like, oh my God, you're telling me we're going to get Jordan Tyson? I'm telling you, this mock draft that I looked at this morning is telling us that Jordan. The reason is because Jordan Tyson has a lengthy injury history, right? He tore like everything in his knee in 2023. That caused him to miss pretty much all of 2023. He played like a handful of games, missed time with a collarbone in 24, and then a hamstring injury in 25. None of those are connected. Those all could be behind him for good, but they're on his resume. And if that causes concerns, it could fall to him falling down the draft board. Now, I don't know if he falls to 26, but if he gets anywhere close to like 20, that is a scenario where I think Brandon Beane should be like, yo, I want this kid. What do I have to do to get him? Why is Jordan Tyson my wide receiver 1? The size jumps out immediately. Fantastic body control. Can win contested catches all day long. It's just an eraser type of wide receiver. And what I mean by that, right? You put the ball here, behind him. You those throws that leave the hand, and you're like, is that a pick? This is a basketball, by the way. You're like, is that a pick? Well, he is the ability to snatch the ball out of the air, overcome, and go and just make a play. He also could play inside and out. I think he's better outside. I think he's better as a X field stretcher type, but he could win after the catch. He could win on those comeback routes. I think I compared him to Odell Beckham Jr., which is high praise because I think Odell Beckham Jr. was the best rookie wide receiver ever, and I think he is one of the best talents ever. Now, I'm not saying Jordan Tyson is that, but that was who I kept thinking of while watching him play. Drew Buckets in the chat said KC Concepcion. I do like him. But the thing is, I said his ceiling was like Zay Flowers. He is a weapon after the catch. Makai Lemon, I feel that way as well. A legit weapon after the catch. Omar Cooper Jr., I feel like falls into that bucket as well. The Bills have guys like that. That is my point. wide receiver is such an interesting position because it's not just take this wide receiver and put them in this team and now you have a new wide receiver one. No, like there's archetypes of wide receivers. Are you a slot guy? Are you a yak guy? Win after the catch? Are you a contested catch, a chain mover, a field stretcher? Can you play the X? Are you a Y? Are you a flanker? Are you a receiver who could win just short and deep? Are you someone who could win in the hardest portion of the field, the intermediate? Can you go across? Right? There's all these types of different archetypes of wide receivers. And the Bills already have someone who could win after the catch. They already have a possession guy. They have numerous of them. I would say Kincaid is that way. Obviously, the one I keep referencing is Khalil Shakir. Like, they have guys like that. DJ Moore is a hybrid of that, right? Like, he's an X, but he could also win after the catch. So I don't think the Bills are just a team that could be like most talented wide receiver we're going to take. Like, I think someone like Denzel Boston, who I think is a good X, reminds me of Roma Dunze. He could fit with the Bills. One that I really like and could be available in round 2 potentially is Chris Brazell out of Tennessee. Field stretcher, big body, contested catch guy. Basically, the names I wrote down were Brian Thomas Jr. and Cortland Sutton. The Bills need a wide receiver like that, right? Like, they don't have a take the top off the defense kind of guy. They don't have a big body guy that Josh could just lob up downfield and you expect him to go up and moss someone. Like, Keon was supposed to be that. DJ Moore can do that at times, but he's not like a go up and just moss you kind of dude. Chris Brazell is. So when it comes to wide receivers with the Buffalo Bills, I think you need to think of what their skill set is and what they do well, almost as much as just how good is this kid. But that is going to be how interesting this draft is for the Bills. I think this is going to be a very interesting draft in general for, like, just as someone who covers the league. But I think for the Bills, it is I'm on record of saying I think this is the most important offseason of the Bean Allen era. I know I said that in the past, but they made the change this year, right? Like, if things don't work out, one, we could be looking at more changes in the future, but like, the Bills have picked Brandon Bean. Josh Allen has a few more years left in his prime. You have, right? Like, someone else might not get another bite at the apple with in their prime Josh Allen. So this is a huge offseason. As is next offseason might be even bigger if the Bills don't get over the hump, right? Like, until they do, every year you feel more pressure because Josh is getting a year older and a year older. Look, the end is not near yet. He's still in his prime. He's still young. Still no reason to think like, oh, what if a decline or fall off or anything's happening? But every year is another just like, we're getting closer to the end and we haven't got our goal done yet. So this is a huge offseason for the Bills and a huge draft. And I am just so excited. Like, I can't wait to come on here after the draft and be like, the Bills took this guy. Like, it could be any shortage of names. So that is why this draft is going to be so much fun. But before I say goodbye, just want to remind everyone again, next Thursday, April 16th, the Cigar Mafia Lounge. We will be there. Myself, Stevie Johnson, some guests. We are going to have a good time. Giveaways, trivia. I will be hanging out after. I think we're doing a meet and greet, but I'll have a drink with you guys, whatever the case may be. Just come out, have a good time. And also, I cannot wait to eat the wings out there. So if you guys see me, I'm going to be ranking wings as I go. Feel free to ask me where they are. But again, the Cigar Mafia Lounge in Orchard Park in Buffalo, New York. We will be there next week. I hope you are as well. But for today, that is going to do it. For our amazing producer, Jimmy, this is the Sick Podcast Bills Banter. I am Michael F. Florio. As always, thank you so much for taking the time and listening. And join us next week at the Cigar Mafia Lounge. We will see you there live and direct. But for now, that's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Bills Banter on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.